Hey, welcome to Film Fanatics. My name is Dan.
My name is Justin.
And I'm Joe.
This week we have 4 movies for you. The sort of sequel to Cloverfield, 10 Cloverfield Lane, Sacha Baron Cohen's latest The Brothers Grimsby, religious movie The Young Messiah, and Ron Perlman in Moonwalkers. We kick it off with 10 Cloverfield Lane, a very interesting film. Justin, let's hear about it.
After getting into a car accident, Michelle, played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead, wakes up in an underground bunker occupied by paranoid survivalist Howard, played by John Goodman, and Emmett, played by John Gallagher Jr. Though despite word of a potentially nuclear attack, as stated by Howard, Michelle has her suspicions and quickly starts making a point to fight her way out to discover the shocking truth. Bradley Cooper also has a small cameo. So to kick this off, we'll answer some of the big burning questions. Is there a monster? Yes. Does it connect to Cloverfield? Sort of. But here's the really big question that I think is probably the most important. Should the loose connection dissuade the viewer from watching this? And my honest answer to that is absolutely not. And what's truly worth it, for at least from my perspective, is honestly the staying power from both Winstead and Goodman's performance. They bounce off each other perfectly. They really give us this really fascinating story. You're always wondering what's going on. But the problem is, it's really compelling when it's in the bunker, but when we start venturing out and we try to have a bit more of a connection, particularly during the, I'm going to say, last 20 minutes, it kind of fizzles out, and I kind of miss the tension that we had in the close quarters, and where they really do manage to make it work despite the relatively minimum budget. At times it's bordering on post-apocalyptic misery, but I was fairly satisfied with this one despite some of the minor setbacks. I think there's a little bit of overacting at parts, but I don't know. How'd you guys feel about the conclusion?
I think the conclusion probably is the weakest element. I do agree that the mystery aspect is where it is the strongest, but I mean, the fact that there is just a loose connection is fine, because that's sort of what it was advertised as. I mean, nobody was saying this is a direct sequel. All the questions will be answered.
Right.
What's up with T.J. Miller? Nobody presented it as such. So, I mean, spiritual sequel, if anything.
Probably.
Distant cousin,
Spin-off.
perhaps. Spin-off, sure. So I don't know why it would dissuade anyone from going. I mean, you don't need to even see the first one to see this, which
Absolutely
I think
not.
would make more people go.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't seen Cloverfield, the original, until a few days ago, and I knew I didn't have to. I just kind of, it was a big hit. I felt like I should.
Yeah.
So, okay, I did, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. But, I mean, you don't have to know one thing about Cloverfield to enjoy this film. I thought it was great overall. I do agree that the Goodman presence is great. His chemistry is great. The John Gallagher Jr., he's okay. He could have been played by
He's
anybody.
kind of a third wheel.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't dislike him, but he didn't really add much for me. It was the two of them. Joe, what about the ending?
Well, I definitely think the ending is the thing people would be most interested in hearing about, because that's kind of the strongest connection to the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I saw Cloverfield a long time ago. I wasn't like the biggest fan of it. I thought it was pretty well done. But, I would definitely say that this one, the cool thing about this one is that it could almost work like a prequel, and then get more people to see the other one. I think it could keep them more interested. So in that sense, it definitely could work. And I think it definitely provides a definitely kind of a new take on the spin-off idea. Where
It's interesting that you say that, Joe, because there was one fan theory that someone posted on IMDb that I can't get out of my head. Mm-hmm. And it involved Super 8, Cloverfield, and 10 Cloverfield Lane. Super 8 obviously being like aliens doing recon.
Yeah.
Cloverfield being invasion. And then 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Well, no, Super 8, well, that's Abrams.
Let's
too,
just
right?
say Central
Abrams as
Consciousness.
well.
Maybe it could be a different alien.
Abrams
or similar
Spielberg,
aliens.
right?
Yeah, no, that could work.
My only problem with that theory, though, is when Super 8 was getting introduced to the public just from that teaser trailer and everyone was curious, what the heck is this? Abrams made it abundantly clear within like a week, this has zero connection to Cloverfield.
It's a shame because they're similar shot with the whole, found footage elements and everything.
No, if Super 8 was a straight-up Cloverfield prequel, I would have been totally on board with that.
No, that'd be fine. And if it's connected...
But it doesn't take place like
70
20 years ago.
Yeah, 70s and something.
Yeah,
does, but-
it takes place in the 80s or...
But
I
never,
believe so.
but Cloverfield never specifically says when was the monster actually
Found originally or
found,
something.
born, if you will.
Like it came
I
back or
suppose
something.
that's true, but the music in the original Cloverfield would indicate it was present day.
I think you could also see the cars and style
Yeah.
too. I think you see computers. I don't think it would quite work, but the general idea I see you're going for could.
Yeah.
But I think the cool thing about this one is in terms of what you can do with the spin-off of movies that take place in the same universe that are technically part of the same franchise, but you can still create something really different, is a really cool idea. I don't think anybody would be dissuaded because, obviously it wasn't advertised like you guys
That's true.
said.
Yeah.
And obviously the reception was really good. Even people were told it had nothing to do with it, and people are generally liking it. Now, I'm actually in kind of a strong agree with you guys. I think that as a thriller, this is amazing. It's really good.
Yeah.
I thought Goodman just demonstrates what a fantastic actor he is because you can feel empathy for him. You can be afraid of him. And you can really find him funny, all within the same role, within the same character. So that's really complicated. I think Winstead's really good as well, plays off him. The tension's excellent. And the thing is, this movie has such a loose connection throughout most of it. It could just be a thriller with the vague idea of the Cloverfield element, and it would have been fine.
I mean, there's a stray Easter egg or two, but...
That would have been fine. And personally, had it ended with, she gets out of there and she sees that one thing, that would have been so powerful and haunting. Maybe a little too dark for people, I don't know, as strong as it was, but when it does get into kind of the whole more action-focused one that it does, it's not bad, I guess, but the depletion of quality seems like two completely different movies.
It's definitely the weakest element. There's no doubt about that.
I don't think it's necessarily the fact that it's a completely lost opportunity. It's just it comes and goes so quickly that we can't really savor it.
No, I mean...
and because of that sort of just fizzles out because it's moving so frenetically.
Well, the way her character grows and her development, it kind of does work the way it resolves, even though it's a little on the nose. I will say that I think that it's one of those things where had they made it abruptly short to go for a really dark ending or spend more time out in the world and establish it, those were the two ways to go. The way they did it was kind of like a halfway between,
like in between.
And it wasn't...
I don't think I would have liked it if they spent more time outside, though. I agree with Justin. By far, the most compelling element is in the bunker.
Like
I mean, I could see them pulling a room, though, where it's like 1 hour in the bunker, 1 hour sort of exploring the outside worlds, but...
But with Room, we already knew why they were in there.
That's
we
fair.
knew what was happening. Here, I think the mystery and thriller aspect is...
the driving force.
Yeah, is where it shines.
And that's why I'd say if you don't know anything about Cloverfield, really, and you just watch this movie and you didn't know anything about it going into it, you don't really know if it's real. You get out there, that one scene, oh, that's really dark, but then you're like, what's this Cloverfield thing? Let's go back. Let's explore it. And you want to know more about what's going on. So as a starting point, it actually works really well, which I like.
That makes sense.
Now, I think that very light sci-fi horror background setting is cool as an idea, but keep it contained as a thriller like it was.
Yeah.
I would have liked that. Dark maybe, but I think that would have made it perfect for me personally.
Okay.
I think that would have made it perfect.
And that's the one thing I think, even though there is a loose connection, the one thing both movies have done is they've kept a consistently pretty dark tone. Like, this is a very, very hard PG-13.
Yeah, I had a hard time believing that.
Yeah, I was actually surprised by that. I guess because there's no language in it, really.
Yeah. I mean, there's one scene near the 2/3 mark that I'm shocked they got away with.
It's pretty dang violent.
Yeah.
His character was okay. I think we needed to establish a little more of him, though. Like, he was all right, but I don't know. I guess you needed stuff to happen to him to build tension, but...
I mean, I think the pieces they gave us were enough to keep that mystery element. I didn't necessarily... Like, I liked finding out with her everything that was happening or potentially happening.
And I will say, this character is just awesome. She's badass.
Yeah, she is.
Through and through. Throughout the whole movie, regardless of what happens, she does become like a pretty cool action hero.
Yeah.
I like her a lot.
They really never make her like this helpless heroine. It's very much her coming to terms with all of this, and
even in the opening scene, though.
Yeah.
Her boyfriend, Bradley Cooper, I guess, is, trying to win her back or whatever. She hangs up on him, and then he calls back. Obviously she's holding all the cards.
And another
with
thing
that.
I really liked about it too, as well, was the fact that up until arguably the ending, I guess you could say that most of what she accomplishes is within the realm of believability.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really crazy.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Well, yeah, until we get to the sci-fi element.
yeah,
that
and I'm
is
like,
Cloverfield.
then it starts to get a little more comic booky, but I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
it's still progressing your characters,
Yeah,
so it doesn't. it's not,
it speaks to what she would probably do.
she's rolling with it, whatever. At this point, she's had a bad day, so gets
Bad
Yes.
day to end all bad days.
quite
but
literally
yes.
frying pan into fire metaphor is very appropriate there. But
True.
that's why I'm saying if it had been that quick ending, it would have been like, wow, dark, but. I
So
guess
this happened.
I guess it might have made people angry, and that's why they went for a more slightly upbeat ending than that. You know, with more superhero type stuff, because that's the franchise way now. But if I was gonna do it, you know, that ending would have been, well, it's Cloverfield, credits.
Well, you know, but at the same time, who knows what Abrams has in the pipeline?
No,
You know, this movie was made in secret, so you know he could have
no,
you know something else that he needed that end scene to connect to.
I mean, after Cloverfield was released, they basically said, "Hey, we want to do more with this franchise. It's just we can't give you the same experience twice."
No, it took a while, and you could see that the ending almost leads into another idea, and I could see us having another story. Maybe it's more like an epic sci-fi war sort of thing, and that's a whole different.
But that also makes me worried that we're going to get Skyline too. So
Well, I don't think it'll be that bad. You know, I'm just saying that it offers another perspective for another type of movie that might not be exactly what everybody else does. Just another, maybe it'll be a more contained story, but in a military setting.
yeah, could be.
The Fallout, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Or maybe we get to see more
Edge of
from,
Tomorrow kind of thing,
maybe more
without
from,
the repeating, obviously. But
who knows? Maybe there could be some
maybe.
other elements, you know,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of possibilities, for sure.
well, let's get to the grades, Justin.
if it weren't for the third act, it would probably be an A- or an A. But for right now, it's a B+.
Okay, Joe.
The thriller elements were great, very close to perfection, but there's too much going on at the ending to wish-you-wash it. It's an A- for me.
Okay, I didn't love the ending, but it did not detract as much for me. I give it a solid A.
Oh, wow.
Up next is The Brothers Grimsby. This was co-written by Sacha Baron Cohen, and it's the latest from the man who brought us Borat and Bruno. In this, he plays Nobby, a stupid, poor, soccer-loving father of about 7, who has been looking for his younger brother for the last 28 years, since their parents died and the two got split up at the foster home. He finds out that his brother, played by Mark Strong, is an MI6 agent and brings him undercover to their childhood home in Grimsby, England. Now,
Good luck.
I created today what I call the Cohen slide. I feel like his movies are getting progressively worse. Borat is certainly the crowning achievement.
Oh, no.
Bruno was pretty good. The Dictator was...
Iffy.
Well, it had a lot of laughs,
It's iffy.
but it was real hit or miss. Like, there were laughs, but
Dan.
there were also a lot of not laughs.
I hope I'm going to hear what I hear here because I'm ready.
This is not the worst thing I've seen, certainly even this year,
Okay.
but it's the worst of his films.
Pretty bad.
It's pretty bad.
Pretty bad.
I mean, I got some laughs from it, but the problem is most of the humor is either really obvious or, you know, the whole thing that I hate. I talked about this in Horrible Bosses too, when the quote-unquote laugh is supposed to be there for just... oh, I'm going to say something or do something shocking.
Pure shock
We're going to,
value.
you know,
Yeah.
go inside an elephant's rectum, quote-unquote, laugh point.
Because you're just doing something so
You know,
off the
yeah,
mark.
Shock humor.
Now, in that particular example, I do think the punch to that scene was funny, but it was about, 50 seconds to a minute of lead-up that just wasn't funny, and
Gets
it
so
wasn't
much
even
worse.
uncomfortable. It was just kind of annoying. So I never like that. And some of the jokes are even dated. Like, we're still joking about AIDS in 2016.
That
Like,
that whole scene.
That was just weird.
Yeah.
I'll get to it, I guess.
And
but
then
I don't know.
the cameos that they weren't even really cameos. They had like bit roles like Penelope Cruz and Rebel Wilson.
Daniel Radcliffe was there too.
I mean, who's that?
Isn't Daniel Radcliffe in there for like a second?
Apparently no.
Okay, that was a lie.
I believe that was all CGI Radcliffe.
Okay, because I had no idea.
Yeah, I know that was.
It was like, why would you say he's gonna be
Yeah.
there and then he's
Well,
there?
Ian McShane. You have Ian McShane in this movie who isn't being Ian McShaney. He's just being any typical.
He's sleepwalking.
Well, they didn't give him any jokes.
No. Well, that too.
I mean, I can't say he did a poor performance. He was attacking that role with vigor, but like
Yeah.
they just didn't give him any good lines. So I have to say I did laugh a few times. It's not as bad for me as say like a Dirty Grandpa, but it's bad. It's the worst in his line for sure. Joe, you had some comments. You hated it.
I
Okay.
hate this movie so
Okay.
much. I didn't expect to. I was actually kind of looking forward to it. I'll actually give it some points. It's kind of another Seth MacFarlane thing for me, where like the basic story, which is semi-dramatic, holds together okay.
Yeah.
There's like a sweetness to the character, like the whole
God, when
brothers.
they tried to go for the dramatic scenes, I couldn't take
No,
it.
not
No.
like super drama, but I mean like the story itself. Like the story's fine. The spy thing, okay, like some of the action where it's like first person, obviously video game like Hardcore Henry preview, I guess. Like
Pretty much, yeah.
some was
Yeah,
cool,
yeah,
but
the lens of the eyeball,
the video
yeah.
game stuff, whatever. That's fine, but like some of it was like so fast, the action was all over the place, and you can tell there's some issues with the director there. And then like, but the characters, it's like I wanted to like his character because I didn't really dislike the character or his goal, what he was going for. He wasn't bad, but the humor that they're using the character for, shock humor, like that scene with where he goes to the convention, meets his brother, and there's like the character himself is not being like a bad person.
Yeah.
But the joke is just kind of there by happenstance, and he's like laughing. Okay, you've got some kid with AIDS, and then he gets shot. That's supposed to be funny. I got so mad.
Yeah,
like I'm
it
like
was
that's
pretty stupid.
No,
It's
not
horrible.
tasteless.
like that's not only is that not funny, that's insulting. It's just mean and cruel. That's not funny. I mean, people were laughing, but I don't know. And that the movie's just full of stuff like that.
It is,
And then there's a
yeah.
lot of boring stuff that you're right is really obvious. Like, haha, like they're drinking, haha, like he's stupid. He went
Right,
to the wall, like
right. He's dumb.
he's dumb. We get it. You know,
Get
like
it.
I don't hate the characters. I don't hate the basic idea of the story. But the humor is either not funny or just offensive for most of it. It's really was a slog for me to
Well,
get
welcome
through.
to Sacha Baron Cohen.
But this is the thing. I liked Borat. Admittedly, that was years
I
ago.
was going to say, that was 10 years ago.
That's what I'm saying. So he used to toe the line, but it was never like to the point where it was so extreme, like he was doing stuff like this. Like it was never
Well,
that
that's the
mean.
problem, I think, with towing the line. You always have to
Go further.
than with the next one. And if you're already pretty close to that line,
Where can you
where
go?
do you go? But I just inject some humor into it. It just wasn't very funny.
It wasn't funny. I thought it just generally sucked. Unfortunately. Justin, you're being quiet over there.
Not entirely.
Yeah, you've given two comedies Fs this year already, so I'm
like-
curious
Well,
where this sort of falls on the line.
Spoiler alert, this is not number 3.
Okay.
Oh,
But,
that's good, I guess.
Bad news, though, it's not far off. But with Cohen, I think he's some sort of strange combination of Peter Sellers and Adam Sandler. And it's a mixture that, obviously, we had some good times with Borat, but it's just getting messy. He's jumping for random things to try and hope for our attention. And with 80 minutes, it doesn't really give you a whole lot of time to appreciate any of these characters, build up some jokes, and because of that, everything feels forced. We keep shoving in action sequences to keep us entertained, which is fine, but it doesn't really gel.
But there's nothing to build up. All of these characters are completely one-dimensional.
Super one-dimensional.
I don't
Like
think an
boring.
extra 10 or 15, 20 minutes is going to flesh out those characters.
I'm
There's
not
nothing to
saying
them.
I'm not saying flesh out the characters. I'm saying flesh out the story.
Or the interactions
I
between
thought
the characters.
the basic story itself was fine.
Like I was fine with
I
it.
wasn't fine. The story isn't the problem with the movie.
No, it's everything about the delivery, which
Yeah.
is just lacking so much. Or it's
But I'm
uneven.
saying if you were to flesh out the story, you could probably start figuring out, okay, here's where I can make the jokes work.
Yeah, probably.
And I think that's where it would have made a world of difference.
Like more time in the satire, which is what
Exactly.
it's trying to kind of be.
to varying
But
extents.
fails. Like I think it has to have a shred of that first.
Well, like try to be something like Spy or Kingsman. Like be a little more wholesome with what you're trying to do, as opposed to jutting in all these other things that you typically do. It just kind of deviates from the main point of the movie,
And I'm saying if they had an extra 15 minutes, they would have just done more of that nonsense.
which would have
You
been
know.
made it longer. And I mean, maybe
More
in the
time
hands of-
devoted to writing, I don't think is ever necessarily a bad thing.
I guess what he's saying is that
What I'm saying
For those
is
writers.
they had to start from scratch to make this better. An extra 15 minutes of story where there is crap, 10 times 0 is still 0. You got to start with something and then build from there.
at the drawing board.
Well, to speak to that, honestly, for about the first third of this movie, I was kind of on board. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but I did laugh more than a handful of times. But as it went on, it felt less like I was seeing more of a coherent story and more or less just a series of Cohen pitching, hey, let's do this for a scene, and on and on and on, and eventually we'll have a movie.
Well, the Sandler comparison isn't bad. I mean, it is like a, if Sandler worked a little more blue and less juvenile with the comedy, this would be the kind of jokes he would be making.
Probably.
I don't know about the shooting the AIDS kid joke. That's not really up. I mean, Sandler doesn't go the mean route.
Not that mean.
He's more about like Kevin James is fat. I'm gonna fart. Those are the jokes.
But not like horrible.
Here it's like bodily fluids.
Honestly,
and,
you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of like the worst of Family Guy humor, like the darkest, just unfunny stuff.
Okay, I could see that. I don't care for Family Guy, so that makes sense.
It just reminded me of the stuff that makes you feel uncomfortable. It's not really funny.
Yeah, some of the later seasons.
Yeah.
I think this is one of those that it starts off kind of promising. I liked some of the directions it was heading, and I really can never fail a movie that makes a good, friendly, solid jab at the Fast and the Furious franchise.
All right, well, what's your grade, Justin?
This one's a D for me.
D as well. Did not like this one.
Okay, a little bit higher, D plus for me, but it's not good.
Sorry, but
No, it's definitely not
I'm
good.
surprised Justin liked it more than Zoolander 2, though. I it's definitely worse for me. Of all the Penelope Cruz loser comedies of the year.
I thought Zoolander 2 was actually a little more
I got a
tame.
laugh.
I did too.
Okay, let me rephrase. I got 3 laughs out of the Brothers Grimsby. I got no laughs out of Zoolander 2.
All right. Well, Joe, let's hear about The Young Messiah.
Well, I mean, you guys know about the Bible. You know about the story of Jesus. This one actually does something a little bit different, though. We actually get to explore a piece of the story which is explored a bit in the Bible, but not quite as much, and that is the life of Jesus as a young boy, where he slowly learns that he is, supernaturally divine, sent from God to save humanity, but also that he is a person, a more human side to him. And we kind of get that early part of the story, which isn't explored quite as much in, cinematic areas. So, hey, that's why I suggested we talk about it, because I like it when, like with Risen, they try to do something kind of different. So, in terms of that, this is pretty much your standard Bible movie, which means that it's like pretty meh for the most part. Like, some of the performances are okay. We got my buddy Sean Bean being like a Roman guy who has to go after him because the overacting Herod tells him, "Oh, gotta kill the young prince." Which, to be fair, Herod's been interpreted that way a lot. It was like Jesus Christ Superstar level, So I'm okay with that.
It's corny.
It was corny.
It was unbelievably corny.
And you see, it's like there were 3 ranges of acting. We had like some acting was okay, like his mother. Like, she was okay. For instance, you had some people that were really dry and asleep, and you had people who were overacting. So you had a mixed bag in terms of performances. I think that they took a different direction. I thought that the kid was okay. He was okay, but it's like it's one of those things where I just wish that they would explore things a little bit more. Like, instead of just kind of going through the motions. You've got a cool idea, but really there isn't too much in depth that's really explored here. So really what you have is just kind of a cool concept that's delivered kind of okay, a little bit of a new twist, but overall, unfortunately, everything's just kind of very average, we'll say, which means that there are some really interesting concepts, but, for the most part, you'll be just trying to fight falling asleep.
Well, and you can certainly feel the budget of this movie.
Oh my gosh.
If you
every
compare
frame.
screen cap to screen cap with Risen,
Yeah.
You could see that one had a more epic scale type budget.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And this was
More grounded.
certainly
Son of God caliber.
in the minimal. Yeah, I was getting Son of God flashbacks from this. I mean, I think as a movie, it's better than Son of God.
More interesting, I think.
Because I do like the angle they took with it. It was certainly interesting to see his sort of
growth,
coming to terms with everything. I thought it was interesting to see the parents struggle.
Yeah.
And hey, why were we chosen? Like, what do we do with this? I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, there were some cool concepts explored, definitely, adding more human element, which is always good.
But it also suffers from kind of the same pitfalls as Risen, ironically enough, in terms of just everybody is so flat.
Yeah, a lot of flat acting, unfortunately.
And
Acting's not great.
And what's worse is it's kind of like watching a mediocre high school production where you can clearly tell that the that the people involved think it's like the greatest thing ever, and they're going to win Oscars, and you don't have the heart to tell them it's just awkward.
I mean, it's not like it's terrible.
Look,
acting.
I don't think they're making these types of movies for Oscars, Justin. They're making these types of movies for the congregations and the churchgoers that are going to watch this movie.
Regardless.
I don't know. I think Granny was trying to like show off her acting chops, and it just came off as laughable.
Hey, I think some of it was serviceable for the story, but you are right. I do. One of the big things of this movie, in terms of just not going quite as far as they could have, is also just that lack of energy. Like, it needs to have that epic feel somehow, and it just does.
Risen did have that.
And this movie just looks kind of cheap by comparison. Unfortunately, Risen got me interested. Risen felt kind of like an epic sometimes.
No, like
a
once
thriller.
Once we started hitting like the second half of Risen, it really started picking up some speed.
Yeah.
But this one, it just sort of bumbles around.
Yeah, but I think it's what you'd expect. I mean, that's all I can really say.
Listen, both are interesting takes. I mean,
yes.
Risen, you had Jesus was barely even in it because it was the quest to find him,
his body. Yeah.
Star Trek 3, The Search for Jesus, but
but cool idea though.
But a cool idea and concept, and I believe this is as well.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
It's just maybe not executed in the best manner, but they were at least trying
to do
with what
something
they have.
different. Yeah,
no, their intents were well. It was just the execution was a little shoddy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not hating on them. I mean, it's not the best thing ever, but I do think that they were giving it a good try. Not their best, but a good old fashioned try. I'll give them that. You know what I mean?
Joe, I just kept thinking throughout this. About like 30 minutes into this movie, I was thinking of a conversation you and I had while we were watching Dragon Ball, the filler episode, where literally nothing is happening. And I just turned to you and said, when did Dragon Ball become our friend Goku?
Oh, you mean the fishing episode?
Yes. Where literally nothing is happening. And I honestly felt the same way about this movie. I was like,
our friend Jesus?
Our friend Jesus.
All right.
But
what's it gonna be?
I leave this one with the same grade that I gave Son of God, which is a D+.
Ooh.
All right, Joe.
I thought this was all right. I leave it with a C.
Yeah, I think it's fine for what it is. It's unfortunate they didn't have a great budget, and it does look a little bit iffy by comparison. But I'm in the middle. It's a C-.
It's all right.
Interesting concept.
Yeah, that's about it though.
Yeah, they could have done a little more with it.
Yeah.
All right, up next is Moonwalkers. Justin?
Rupert Grint plays Johnny, a manager of a failing rock band, until desperately looking for a way to make a successful living, until he's accidentally mistaken to be the manager of renowned filmmaker Stanley Kubrick, recently made his iconic film 2001: A Space Odyssey, and is believed by CIA operative Kidman, played by Ron Perlman, to film the upcoming moon landing. Desperate for money, John keeps up the facade by disguising his lead singer as Kubrick, until the truth gets out and all parties will have to find a way to film the moon landing and hopefully keep their lives in the process. I'm going to kick this off by saying the first half of this film is incredibly rough, but patience is a virtue, and I think this is one of those movies where if you could stick with it, there is some fun to be had. I'm not okay with some of the humor at the start of it. It's trying to be darkly comedic, but it walks that line where dark comedy sort of heads into thriller territory and doesn't entirely come back. They keep trying to make this like PTSD running gag, which I had very, very mixed feelings about. But for me personally, the best comedies are sort of along the same line with the best thrillers. It's all about progression. And the more nuts and insane and ridiculously wild this movie gets, I think the more entertaining it starts to become. And we start seeing this, we start to actually see this playoff of the material between Perlman and Grint that does actually come to life. And I think the climactic moon landing is actually surprisingly pretty funny, despite some of the rough start of this one. But where do you guys stand?
Well, for me, Justin, I think this movie was kind of a mixed bag.
I couldn't agree more, but continue.
I mean, I think that they got some of the setting right. Like, of course, I thought that some of the use of the clothing and the vehicles and the music was appropriate for the 60s. But the problem is, they also use a lot of cliche stuff, like, you got White Rabbit. How many times you're going to hear
Oh
that?
my god! Thank you
and
for saying that, because that after
like-
this movie, that
I'm
has
done.
been added to my list of the songs, like the Pixies. Where's my mind?
Yeah.
Enough.
It's like, okay,
it's boring
we're,
now.
We're going to enter the
Get a
drug-
life.
Like, I was just thinking, okay, they're going to go to see this guy, and it's drug fueled,
Mm-hmm.
invested. White Knight. I'm like, wow.
Really?
Again? Like, I mean, it's so... And that's the thing. I think this movie just goes along a lot of those cliches we've seen before. Even though the concept for the story is kind of interesting.
It had some promise.
No, definitely. And there were some times I did laugh. Like, I can't say I was like... I did thought the movie was totally unfunny. But I thought that the problem is it didn't know how to handle a lot of the humor. Like, for instance, the PTSD thing. I know that was supposed to be some kind of joke. I didn't think it was funny. There's a guy struggling
Yeah.
with PTSD
Yeah.
because he was from Vietnam. I'm like... And Perlman plays it dramatically, which makes sense. And he does a good job, but does it work for comedy? I don't
Yeah,
know.
I was gonna say I don't really blame Perlman. I blame more the director for not really knowing what to do with it.
And that's
Yeah, but obviously there was some sort of disconnect, because Joe's right. Perlman does play it dramatically, but it's directed for laughs.
It's
So
weird.
obviously there was some sort of miscommunication between the two
I would agree.
of
Yeah.
how to actually do the scene.
And that's, I think, where the big issue is sort of that lack of connection for communication
Mm-hmm.
there. Whereas why most of the comedy is awkward at best. Sometimes it's funny, but it's more sporadic. And I will say, though, along with Perlman, I thought Grint did an okay job. And I think between the two of them, their performances were good. But I found that a lot of the supporting actors really all over the place in terms of quality of acting.
Absolutely.
Some of them were okay. Some of them were just bad.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. The movie was all right, but it was really uneven. I don't know, really uneven.
I feel the same, and I do think it was a great concept. My big issue with the movie, though, is not only, you're right, Joe, they got the setting right of the 60s, but the problem is it plays out like it was actually made in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it plays out like a wacky Monkeys episode or something.
Gone horribly awry, but
Well,
yes.
it's just because it's so like bizarre and broad in its concept that it's like a lot of the old 60s sitcoms, and it's shot that way and it's sort of played that way. I agree that some of the acting's good from Grint and Perlman, but everything else about it is sort of just okay.
And for me, I wanted to take a lot of it kind of seriously, because if I could say it being as a really, really dark comedy, it pretty much not comedic, it could work. But it's obviously not what they're going for in a lot of scenes,
Yeah,
so I can't
right.
give it full points for that. But I guess, once again, the things that worked I thought did work well, but it's not enough to keep the whole movie afloat all the time.
Yeah. I would agree with Justin's sort of basic synopsis that it starts out a bit rocky and then about halfway through
It starts.
Gets more interesting.
It will
Yeah,
definitely
it
build
picks
to
up a little
something.
bit.
Yeah, but it is a little rough at the start, and I don't ever quite think it picks up enough. All right, Justin, what is your grade for Moonwalkers?
At the start of this, I was expecting like D plus. By the end of it, C minus.
All right, Joe?
I'm a little higher than that. I leave it with a C+.
Okay, right in between you guys, a straight C for me.
Huh.
All right, well, that is going to do it for the show this week. Gearing up for better movies, I hope. We've had a pretty rough year so far.
I'm excited soon.
But we've got, Batman v Superman and Civil War and all these great things coming out.
And for me, Greek Wedding.
And for me,
Ah.
Allegiant. I'm a great big Divergent fan.
Well, I
know, you're not.
I like them more than Justin.
Well,
I know
anyone does. So
The Divergent games.
yeah, I was gonna say. All right, well, that will do it for the show, though. Please subscribe if you have not already, and you can join us on the Facebook group Film Fanatics with an exclamation point and the Twitter feed at Film Fanatics Pod. That's gonna do it for this week. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you back here next time.